Many game developers love to brag about the size of their open worlds, and while that may sound like the setup to a male anatomy joke, it's not. It's just the truth. For a while, the quality of an open world game seemed very much to be almost exclusively defined by how big the world was. And there's certainly developers that still take that approach. But in recent years, there's been a big change. Something you may consider the natural reaction, or maybe something a little bit deeper. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, we ask the question, why do some developers keep their world size a secret? Now, as I said, a lot of developers do pride themselves on creating a very large open world. When they create a successful open world game, the next game has a list of features that typically includes a world bigger than you saw in the first game. And I get this, I understand why. Oftentimes you need to justify making a sequel to a successful game. Obviously you have to have done something better than the first game, otherwise what's the point? It's just more of it. But if a bigger world is the point that you're selling on, aren't you kind of inherently bragging about the fact that the game is more of the game? What I'm implying here is that square footage is not an indicator of quality, so what's the real holy grail of an open world? Well, if you're asking me, it's density. And in this case, density doesn't just mean there's a lot of stuff there. Density means there's a lot to do, a lot to see. I know there are some people who definitely prefer just a big open field, and that's fine, but a well-designed game isn't just a big open space. What you're talking about is a canvas. A sandbox game is in its way a platform for you to express yourself in. An open world game is not inherently a sandbox game. So what happens when an open world game, not a sandbox game, is just a bunch of empty space? I would call that bad design. Another factor to think about, the faster the player actually moves through the world can make a larger map seem smaller. Now, every single Elder Scrolls game following Morrowind is much bigger than Morrowind, however that game still feels bigger to me. Perception is important, and whether or not it's to create the illusion of a large world or to force the appearance of having a longer game, there's something that rings a little bit false about a big empty space, at least in a game that isn't specifically a sandbox game. Here's one of the problems. In making pure square footage a selling point for a game, they've quantified it as a metric that can be tied to the quality of the game. And in expressing the amount of square footage or square miles or square meters or whatever, are indirectly saying, because it's so big, it's good. And in doing that, they are saying our competitors, which have smaller open worlds, are less good than us. Because it's a specifically quantifiable number, something that can be pointed to and called real, including a size metric for the world, can help incentivize a purchase. And if it can help incentivize a purchase, you'd better believe there's pressure on developers to make the world big, because there's an expectation now, it's tied to the quality. Gamers have had that marketed to them. They say to themselves, oh, this game's big, and I like this game. Big must mean good. But to point to a game that has continually made me feel happy about the state of the games industry, Horizon Zero Dawn, a game that manages to be an open world game and indulge a lot of the tropes of the open world game while also being an incredibly good game, and in no way appearing cheap or as a cash grab, despite, like I said, containing a lot of the conventions, the things that you see repeatedly in open world games. Marker towers, fetch quests, it's all in Horizon Zero Dawn, it's just all done in a different way. But what sets that up? Well, for one, Horizon Zero Dawn is dense. It is incredibly dense. Everywhere you look, there is something. There's no empty areas, there's no unlived in areas, everything feels alive. And that's important for an open world game, regardless of the size of the map. If a game feels like that, then when you've been through an area, you don't just say to yourself, well, I've been here, I don't need to be here again. You tend to take things in more. You tend to do more. You tend to care more. So in the words of Jan Bart van Beek, the studio art director at Guerrilla Games, when asked how many square kilometers the world of Horizon Zero Dawn is, he said, we never say that because it would destroy the illusion. What illusion specifically are we talking about? Well, like I said, in using the size of the world as a marketing prop, as a means to sell the game, that is, there's been an expectation created of a large world. The illusion you create by making an open world that feels very lived in is that it's much bigger, because it feels more like the real world if the real world were more like this, if there were robot dinosaurs in it, for instance. Van Beek contends that if people knew how big the world of Horizon Zero Dawn actually was, they would be disappointed. Now, why is that? One's enjoyment of a game really shouldn't be dependent upon metrics. But in a competitive industry of companies competing with each other to create the best competition platform between players, unfortunately, some people take marketing stats, that is, bigger numbers, equate it to quality, and tie that supposed quality to their own taste. Because in our society, people are encouraged to be as competitive as they can be as individuals. Unfortunately, which video game you like being better than other video games, while in all actuality is simply a subjective thing to yourself, because of the competitive nature of a lot of surrounding factors, some people treat as an objective fact. And denseness is not an objective fact. Square miles, statistics, numbers, and hard data are objective facts. It's impossible to quantify one's own taste, so in order to be competitive with taste, one might cite statistics such as the size of an open world. The reason why a developer might not say the size of their open world is because they believe in the quality of what they've made and think that sheer quantity wouldn't really say enough about the game. To quote Jan Bart van Beek again, "It's better to let them experience the world than to define it in figures." That is to say, the quality of your experience doesn't actually have anything to do with larger numbers. And it's encouraging to see a game like that, a brand new IP, not only get made in the AAA gaming world, but get marketed and do well. It's encouraging to see. Of course, Horizon Zero Dawn isn't the only one that's ever done this. There's more than one good game out this year that has these elements to them. And then there's the games with the dense areas as well as the larger open areas that are made specifically for sandbox exploration, creation, and player narrative building. They do exist, but some developers are making games that center around a specific experience. That specific experience needs to be quality. Now, that doesn't mean there can't be quantity. Certainly quality in large quantities is good, but quality has to come first. What do you think? We're obviously very interested in your opinion, so leave us a comment, and if you like this video, please click the like button. If you're not subscribed, now is a good time to do so. We upload brand new videos every single day of the week, and the best way to see them first is a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter @FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.